Are you planning a trip to Yellowstone National Park? Do you need help designing your itinerary? Well, you're in the right place. Yellowstone is a massive national park with a lot of nature to experience. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing a 3-day itinerary of Yellowstone. I'll be sharing some of my favorite spots, some travel tips, and what you can experience in this amount of time. But before we get into it, opening sequence. Hello National Park Explorers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jeff Heyer and I'm a Montana-based content creator that shares eco-travel content on my platforms. I share videos about wildlife experiences, national parks, and eco-travel insights. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thanks for being here and supporting my content. Today we're talking about Yellowstone, one of my favorite places in the world. I visit Yellowstone every year. You may have seen my Yellowstone vlogs on my channel. I've been there during the winter, the summer. For a place this diverse, Yellowstone never gets old to me. There's wildlife, volcanic features, mountains, grassland, recreation, and so much more. I know this park really well. I could probably drive it with my eyes closed. I pretty much had to once when I got stuck in a snowstorm there. That story's for another time. In today's video, I'm going to share with you a 3-day Yellowstone itinerary I recently experienced, which I felt had a great pace, covered a lot, and included a little bit of it all. I took my good friend Shelly there for the first time ever. I wanted her to see as much as possible, so that's how this itinerary formed. So if this is your first time visiting Yellowstone, this is a great itinerary to follow. You'll see the major sites, geothermal wonders, wildlife hotspots, and scenic landscapes. Take this video as a source of inspiration. It's meant to provide context to some different sites, what you can see in this amount of time, and overall what to expect before going. Before I start, I just want to mention you can change the order of these days however you'd like. Shuffle them up, no problem. For accommodations, you can stay at campsites or hotels along the route like we did, or just pick one place to base yourself for 3 nights. This baseline itinerary is easily adaptable to your situation. All right, let's break it down, starting with day 1. Day 1 was all about wildlife. We woke up in Gardiner at the Eagle Creek campground. Gardiner is a small touristy town in Montana. Being right outside the park gates, a lot of Yellowstone travelers will base themselves here. Several accommodation options to choose from that give easy access to the park. We woke up really early, like before the sun was even up. This is because we wanted to go find wolves. Wolves are a crepuscular species, meaning they're most active at dawn and dusk. Crepuscular. So by embarking into the park early in the morning, this offers the highest chances of spotting them. We entered through the north entrance, skirted past Mammoth, and made our journey to Lamar Valley. This environment is a gorgeous river valley. There are lots of wide open views here, and this is why it's a prime location to spot wildlife. Wolves, bears, coyotes, elk, moose, I've seen it all here. Now, finding the wolves usually isn't too difficult because what you're actually looking for are the wolf watchers. If you're driving along and find a traffic jam of people with viewing scopes and cameras, they're likely looking for wolves. Yellowstone is a federally protected zone for gray wolves. The population that lives inside the park hovers around 100. Do realize there is no guarantee of always spotting one. They roam in and out of the park often, but the wolves that dominate the Lamar Valley are some of the easiest to spot, relatively speaking. That's because there's wide open views and a lot of game for these animals to prey on. Like I said, spotting a wolf is never a guarantee, but looking for them is half the fun. Do you realize that if you do find them, they're usually not too close to the road, so bring binos if you want to get a better visual. Good luck in your wolf search. After Lamar Valley, we made our way south. Keep in mind throughout this video that there are lots of places to pull over in Yellowstone. There are tons of roadside stops and viewpoints to check out. You can spend months just stopping at every single feature. Now, points of interest along this part of the drive include Tower Falls and a petrified tree that's 50 million years old. We then drove through Dunraven Pass, one of the highest points of elevation you can drive in Yellowstone. The scenery along this roadway is simply spectacular. Next stop was the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. This is a must-see on your Yellowstone trip. The Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone is a breathtaking feature with canyon walls, cascading waterfalls, and dramatic vistas carved by the Yellowstone River. There are many lookouts and walkways you can explore. You can even hike all the way down to the upper and lower falls, but just keep in mind that you have to hike all the way up these steps on the way back. This is a good lunch spot to consider. There's a cafeteria and marketplace available here. Or if you're like us, you can just dine out of the back of your car. Ta-da! Thank you, chef. Just make sure you don't leave scraps behind that will attract animals to the road. We then continued our journey into Hayden Valley, another great place to spot wildlife. There are wolf spotting opportunities here as well. You may also find bison on the road, so don't expect to drive through this section too quickly. In fact, don't expect to drive anywhere in Yellowstone quickly. Most people are driving at a leisurely, recreational pace, so don't go here if you're gonna be rushed. There could also be wildlife crossings anywhere in the park, so make sure you drive slow. You do not want to smack a bison. We then made a stop at the Mud Volcano. You do know that Yellowstone is one of the world's largest supervolcanoes, right? Anything inside this line is inside the Yellowstone caldera. The volcanic heat from the earth is what's responsible for all of these geothermal wonders. You will find these geothermal features scattered all throughout the park. The Mud Volcano area is just one of them. This area has several bubbling mud pots to explore, including the sizzling basin, the churning cauldron, sour lake, dragon's mouth spring. Don't you just love these names? The hydrothermal features here are some of the most acidic in the park. They're very fascinating to witness and definitely worth a pit stop. After walking all these pathways, we spent the evening driving along the beautiful Yellowstone Lake. As you can see in our eyes, we were a bit tired at this point from a long day of driving and sightseeing. But you know, sometimes you just have to maximize. We spent the night here at Lewis Lake Campground. We were mostly car camping on this trip, but like I said earlier, there are other options if you're not comfortable with camping. Whew, big day. As you can see, we drove through about half the park. That's kind of how wildlife spotting excursions go. You drive and drive until you see something. We covered a lot on day one and I was super tired by the end of it. The supervolcano could have erupted and I would have slept through it. Now on to day two. Day two is all about exploring the natural wonders of Yellowstone. We woke up at Lewis Lake, half frozen from sleeping in the car. Didn't see the lake. It was a very foggy morning. We started the day by driving around the area just to pull over on the side of the road and take in some mystical morning canyon views. There's just so many cool spots to discover here. Once the sun started to burn off the fog, we were then off to see the most famous feature of Yellowstone, Old Faithful Geyser. No trip to Yellowstone is completed without seeing Old Faithful. That's like going to Paris and missing the Eiffel Tower. Old Faithful is old and faithful. She's one of the most predictable geysers in the world, going off every 90 minutes or so. There's a large viewing area here where you can catch each eruption. There's a wonderful museum and visitor center that's next to the geyser that I definitely recommend popping into. This exhibit does a great job of explaining the geology behind the Yellowstone caldera and its many features. Keep in mind there's a lot to explore around Old Faithful. It's not just one geyser. You can walk along the upper geyser basin and take a close look at a kaleidoscope of hydrothermal features. You might even walk through the splash zone of some of them. Special effects department's getting a raise. Amazing features to see here include the Grotto Geyser and the Morning Glory Pool. I have a whole video just about this one spring. It has an interesting backstory. You should check it out. I'd budget at least an hour to see all this, longer if you really want to stop and stare at them all. Next stop was the Grand Prismatic Spring, part of the Midway Geyser Basin. This is only about a 15-minute drive from Old Faithful. The Grand Prismatic Spring is the largest hot spring in the US and the third largest in the world. There's a wonderful boardwalk that travels along the spring so you can see it up close. The loop only takes about 15 to 20 minutes to walk, and if you want to get a higher vantage, there's an overlook that you can hike to. This walkway is only about 1.6 miles up. This is where you can really see the full scale and all the colors of this feature. So if you aren't tired of geothermal features at this point, don't you worry because there's still more. There are hot springs and volcanic features everywhere in Yellowstone. There's just a big cluster of them in this area. So after the upper and midway basins, there's then the lower geyser basin. Prepare for more colors, bubbling mud pots, and boiling pits. After a long morning and afternoon exploring all these natural wonders, it was time to head to West Yellowstone. West Yellowstone is perhaps the most popular place for people to base themselves when visiting the park. Whether you're staying there or not, it's definitely an interesting and quirky town to check out. There are several restaurants, gift shops, and all the t-shirt stands you could ever imagine. If you dream of any t-shirt, you will find it here. One stop I really recommend checking out in West Yellowstone is the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center. This is a great place to get an up-close perspective of Yellowstone's native species. As mentioned earlier, finding wolves can be difficult as they're very elusive and often far away from the road, but it's here you can see them up close in a habitat. This center does a great job of educating visitors about these apex predators. Now, the grizzly bear program that they have here is super cool. They actually do bear-resistant product testing here. So I'm actually going to pause here for a moment and share a clip that I posted on social media. I feel this clip does a solid job at explaining what this program is all about. What makes something bear-resistant? When you are shopping for outdoor gear, whether it's camping equipment, hiking packs, coolers, anything that might contain food in it, it's going to be marketed as bear resistant. But how do we know if something is or isn't? Right now I'm at the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center in West Yellowstone, and it's here where companies from around the world submit their newly manufactured products to be bear tested. If their product is able to survive 60 minutes of direct bear-to-product contact, then the item will receive a bear-resistant certification. The bears here are experts at breaking into things. That's exactly why they were sent here in the first place. These were problematic bears that were terrorizing urban areas, breaking into everything from homes to cars and, of course, trash cans. Because they were becoming habituated to these food sources, they became more aggressive and dangerous. So rather than being euthanized, which is the fate for most bears in this situation, they were brought to this facility instead, where today they serve as education ambassadors for their species and are test subjects for the bear product testing. If you notice an IGBC logo on a product, chances are it was sent here at some point and put to the ultimate bear survival test. If you want to learn more about wildlife, follow me for more adventures. Don't think these bears are just working for us. They are well cared for at this facility. The bear-resistant testing is fantastic enrichment for these intelligent animals. So when you visit this center, you might get lucky and see this live in action. Totally depends on the volume of products that are coming in or how many they're dealing with. You might be able to find more information beforehand by checking out their schedule online. Aside from grizzlies and wolves, you can also have a look at the river otter enclosure, birds of prey, and more. Once you've had your fill of wildlife and geology learning for the day, enjoy a nice evening in West Yellowstone. I've stayed in several different accommodation options here before. One of the coziest I would recommend are these explorer cabins. Very comfortable and right across the street from the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center. It's now time to go over day 3. As you can see on the map, we've so far covered a substantial amount of Yellowstone. We are going to explore the last main corner over here, the sites between West Yellowstone and Mammoth Hot Springs. Some sites to explore on this route include the Norris Geyser Basin, Gibbon Falls, and the Roaring Mountain. The next major stop was Mammoth Hot Springs. This spring is very unique and unlike the rest in the park. It's known for its stunning travertine terraces. Essentially what's happening is hot water is pumping up from the core of this mountain and trickling down, creating these whimsical terraces. Naturally formed steps that are gorgeous to admire. How this is formed is a very slow and dynamic process. Walking the pathways around this area could take around an hour or so. There are several different terrace walls to experience, and the views from the spring are very dramatic. Once we explored the spring, we then visited the town of Mammoth itself, which is ruled by elk. Make sure to drive slow, you do not want to hit one of these massive creatures. After taking a moment to explore Mammoth, we made our way out the north entrance back to Gardiner where we started. And that completes the ultimate Yellowstone loop. Before I finish up, a quick shout out to the Yellowstone Hot Springs, just a few minutes drive north of Gardiner. We stopped here on our last day for a quick soak, which was absolutely lovely. The views from here were gorgeous to stare at while warming up in the spring water. A great place to consider visiting as well. And that concludes this 3-day itinerary of Yellowstone National Park. I hope you learned something new about this park, got some solid ideas for planning your own adventure there. If you enjoyed this video and want to watch more videos like it, don't forget to hit subscribe. I really appreciate you being here and supporting my content. What kind of content do you want to see from me next? Are there aspects of Yellowstone you want me to cover in particular? Drop a comment below. I would love to hear what you'd like to see from me. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your trip to the world's first ever national park. Safe travels.